In this lesson, we're going to take a look at creating multitrack sessions within Adobe Audition. Now, we did take a quick look at the multitrack interface earlier by clicking on the multitrack button, but if you don't have a multitrack session open in Audition, then you will be greeted with the new multitrack session window, which you can also access from the File menu at the top of the screen. When we're creating a multitrack session, we're creating a new asset which we'll probably want to save to our master folder. By default though, you might see that it's trying to save to my Documents folder, which is not where my master folder is. So what you'll need to do is click on Browse, and then you'll see this Finder style window open, or you'll see a Windows Explorer type window open, and you just basically need to navigate back to wherever your media files are stored, so here in my case, and we want to save this into the radio package master folder. So I'm going to save it in there. Now don't click any of the folders in here, I just want this session to live alongside the rest of these folders. So let's click on Choose. So just to show you, this is where I'm going to save my session. We can give the session a name such as Transfer Worries, for example. And before we click OK, I just need to discuss a few more of the options that we have available within this window. Starting with templates. You'll notice that templates are set to none at the moment, and I would recommend that we stick to none for the time being. We do have other templates which you can use, but I always find it easier to start with none when editing audio for radio. The second option that we have is the sample rate, which if we click on the drop down box, you can see that we've got quite a few different numbers available. Now, these numbers might not mean anything to you at the moment, but I'll briefly explain what a sample rate is now. Now, a sample rate is the amount of digital snapshots that are taken of an audio file per second. It's a little bit like frame rate for video. So if you added 25 frames per second video, this would be the equivalent but for audio. So in this case, 48,000 means that the audio file has 48,000 different snapshots taken every second. I'm going to cancel this window for a moment and just show you what I mean. So here we have the Osher Williams clip. If I keep pressing my plus icon on my keyboard, eventually we'll zoom in so far that we get to something that's called sample level. Now, sample level looks like a series of dots, which we should see in a moment, and they'll start to appear around about now, and there we have all of the dots. I'm going to zoom in on my screen as well so you can see these dots nice and clearly. So each one of those dots is a sample, and in every 1 second of digital audio there are 48,000 samples that make up what we are hearing as the audio file. Now, as we've just seen, different sample rates are available to us from the new multitrack session window, so you can choose your sample rate from the list. In broadcasting, there's two main sample rates that you'll come across, and that is 48,000, which is the default shown here, or 44,100. You might come across other sample rates from time to time, but these are the main two that you'll hear. The lower the sample rate, the lower the quality of the audio, and obviously the higher the sample rate, the higher quality. But we get to around this point where the human ear can't really hear any more difference in terms of quality. So usually for broadcasting, you'll stick to 48,000 samples or 44,100. We'll stick with 48,000 samples for the time being. Bit depth essentially controls what's called dynamic range. So that's the difference between the loud parts and the quiet parts. And the difference between the two is determined by bit depth. The higher the bit depth, the higher the dynamic range. We'll stick with 32 for the time being. And then finally we've got master output, which is currently set to stereo. This will usually stick to stereo as opposed to mono or 5.1 for broadcasting, but you can mix in 5.1 if you have a correct mixing environment set up. But for this session, we're going to stick with stereo. I just need to make sure that I change my session name again after cancelling that last window. And I also need to make sure that I've changed my folder location. So if you remember, it's going to be on my desktop and it's going to be in my 02 radio package master folder. So click on Choose and then click on OK. Now, if you take a look in the Files panel, you can see that we have an additional item that's been included, and it's this transferworries.sesx, and it has a slightly different icon compared to the audio files that we've been working with so far. If I right click on this file and go to Reveal in Finder, or Reveal in Windows Explorer if you're on Windows, here we can see the file that's just been created by Adobe Audition. You can also see that there's a backup folder as well. So every so often, Audition will create a backup of that file just in case it corrupts for any reason. So this will start to populate whilst you've got the multitrack session open. Taking a look at where this is saved, as we wanted to, it's saved in the radio package master folder just here, living alongside the other subfolders that we have within that master folder. And you can see that the folder name has inherited the name from the actual session as well. So this is the file that we're dealing with. So let's now, for example, if I decide to right click on Transfer Worries and go to Close Selected Files, if I go back to my Finder window, go back to transferworries.csx, that is the file that we've just created. Now the basic principle of the multitrack editor is that we can click and drag an audio file from the Files panel onto one of the available tracks. Now importantly, this file that we have here, this OsherWilliams_edit, this file is not embedded within the multitrack. The multitrack is simply referencing the original audio file. So that's really important, because if we break the link between Audition and this file, Audition won't know where to look for the file. Now if I close my session again by right clicking and close selected file, yes, I'll save changes because I've got this clip on my multitrack. I might see this pop up here that says one or more media files used by this multitrack are located outside of the session folder. Would you like to copy these files to the session folder? Now the answer that you choose here purely depends on whether or not you know exactly where all of your media files are stored. And just to prove the point, we know where our files are stored because everything is in our master folder, which is what we recommended that you do at the start of the session. Have a master folder and keep everything nice and neatly organised into separate subfolders within there. So the fact that we can see this pop up just here, let's just move it to the top of the screen, is basically saying all of these files that the multitrack session is using, so OsherWilliams_edit in this case, that is located outside of the session folder. The session folder is this folder, Transfer Worries, and yes, we know that OsherWilliams_edit is not stored here, it's in fact stored within interview clips. And if we go to there, we can see OsherWilliams_edit. So as long as you know where all of your audio files are saved, you can click on no in this case, that's absolutely fine. But if you've got audio files stored all over the place, maybe some files are on the desktop, some are in your downloads folder, some are on a USB stick, some are on an external hard drive, you might want to click on yes, and then Audition will create a copy of all of those files and store them within that multitrack session folder. So it's up to you which option you choose. I'm going to click on no for the time being. Okay, so we've closed that multitrack session now. Now going back to the original point about audio files not being embedded within a multitrack and instead just referenced, if I go back to my master folder, let's go to my interview clips folder, the 2020-08-26. Let's go to OsherWilliams_edit because this clip is being used in our multitrack at the moment. So I'm going to rename this to OsherWilliams_edit 2. So now I've effectively broken the link between my multitrack and that audio file. So when I come back to Transfer Worries and open it again, I'll get this window pop up, which is basically saying one of the files referenced by this session can't be found. We need to press the Link Media button, which is down here, to locate the missing files. So just be aware of that. So if you create a multitrack session and you save it and close it, if you start to move any of the files around that multitrack session is referencing, you will break the link between the Audition session and the audio file that like we've just done. So we need to click on Link Media, and we need to navigate back to wherever we've saved that file, which is in Interview Clips 2020-08-26. We need to change Enable down at the bottom to All Files, and then we can choose OsherWilliams_edit 2, and then click on Open, and we now relink that file, albeit with a slightly different name. So the moral of the story, don't break the link between your audio files and your multitrack session. Try not to move files around in a different folder structure, leave everything intact as it is before you start to edit files within the multitrack. In this lesson, we've taken a look at creating multitrack sessions within Adobe Audition. Coming up next, we'll take a closer look at the Multitrack interface.